welcome back to Creation Magazine Live. In this segment, we've got a flaky story from Creation Magazine. What's it all about?
Well, it's on snowflakes,
Okay.
right?
So it's
you get
not
all
too flaky.
kinds of articles in Creation Magazine. This one, let's give the issue number, volume 32, number 2. By the way, you can get back issues of many. Of course, they don't last forever, but if you're interested in some of these articles and you want a physical copy, of course, you can sign up for the electronic version of the subscription as well.
Yep.
But you know, the great thing about the physical ones is that they're great for evangelism. You can give them to other people, and they can read articles like this one here on snowflakes and get interesting information about how that relates to the Bible and God as creator.
Right, that's what's intriguing me, because I don't remember reading this article, so I want to see what the connection with snowflakes is.
Yeah, here we go. This is by Martin Tampier. Not a name I recognize. So there's all. It's not someone from our staff, but there's all kinds of people that contribute to the magazine.
That's
Anybody
right.
can submit an article.
If you'd like to submit an article, you can send it to our staff, and we can review it and see if you can be in Creation Magazine.
All right, this is entitled "The Treasures of Snow," or "The Treasures of the Snow." It's got some great pictures of snowflakes as well in there, and
Something Canadians we know a lot
something
about.
Canadian, yeah. We get this like 10 months a year. We get snow up here. So. Snow crystals are some of the most beautiful shapes that nature has to offer, and no two flakes are alike. Many evolutionists have tried to claim the order of the crystal forming due to atomic structures as proof for something coming out of nothing due simply to natural laws. But closer examination of this argument shows that it does not hold up to scientific scrutiny. And this next section is entitled "Modern Snowflake Research." Didn't know there was such a thing, but apparently there is.
Scientists.
Several scientists are trying to grow their own crystals to understand and direct their development. Applications of this research reach way beyond meteorology, with the aim of controlling the growth of other crystals, such as silicon structures for the semiconductor industry. So, why do snow crystals form in this shape? Does it require special design? No. Their shape is due to the properties of their building blocks, the water molecule, H2O. These are bent and polar, that is, positively and negatively charged ends. So they're charged. When they come together in solid form, they tend to form the lowest energy structure they can, which is crystals with hexagonal, that's six-fold, symmetry. By contrast, carbon dioxide, a linear and more symmetrical molecule, forms cubic crystal systems, and its solid forms dry ice that you'd use in your cooler, and so on. We now know that not only temperature but also humidity influences crystal formation and shape. The beautiful six-legged star-like crystals grow in air warmer than -3 Celsius. Between -3 and -10, snow falls as little prisms. Between -10 and -22, it is, again, little stars. And over the page, below that, prisms once more. Nevertheless, scientists still cannot tell exactly why snow crystal shapes change so much with temperature. These shapes depend on how water vapor molecules are incorporated into the growing ice crystal, and the physical process governing crystal growth are complex and not well understood yet. And that was a revelation to me. I thought, freeze water, it takes a certain shape based on the atomic structure, right? But apparently it's not well understood. This next section is called "Snowflakes, Proof of Evolution?" Question mark. Sometimes evolutionists claim that snowflakes show that order can arise from disorder and more complex structures from simple ones, based purely on the inherent physical properties of matter. Therefore, the reasoning goes, life could have arisen from simple molecules that organize themselves in a way that ultimately leads to more complex structures and eventually the first living cell. All right, sounds interesting. But crystals are nothing like a living cell. Formed by the withdrawal of heat from water, they are dead structures that contain no more information than is in their component parts, the water molecules. Life forms, on the other hand, came into existence, evolutionists believe, through the addition of heat energy and to some postulated primordial soup. So you add heat to this soup.
I do that every now and then.
Yeah, it doesn't lead to life though, but Not only are these processes very different, but life requires the emergence of new information, a code, which we've spoken of many times,
Yeah.
in order to take over the functions of organization and the reproduction of a cell. There is therefore no analogy between snow crystals and the far, far greater complexity of living organisms. More importantly, the organization in proteins and DNA is not caused by the properties of the constituent amino acids and nucleotides themselves any more than the forces between ink molecules make them join up into letters and words.
Right. There's the key.
Michael Polanyi, he lived in the 1800s and into the 1900s. A former chairman of physical chemistry at the University of Manchester in the UK, who turned to philosophy, confirmed this. As the arrangement of a printed page is extraneous to the chemistry of the printed page, so the base sequence in a DNA molecule is extraneous to the chemical forces at work in the DNA molecule.
Right.
It is this physical indeterminacy of the sequence that produces the improbability of the occurrence of any particular sequence, thereby enables it to have meaning, a meaning that has a mathematically determinate information content.
Right.
You know, they used bigger words back then, I think. Snow crystals are not direct evidence for creation either. Nevertheless, the philosophical argument that can be made that a universe without God cannot logically be expected to create such order out of disorder. So when we observe order and design in the universe as exemplified by the six-cornered snowflake, doesn't this demand a creator who supplies this order and design? Of course. The physical properties of water are known to be necessary preconditions for life to exist on Earth, which testifies to a creator who conceived the universe and its physical laws as conducive to life. For example, snow forms an insulating layer on the ground that protects plants and animals below it from much harsher temperatures above. But whereas this could have been achieved with very special shapes, such as a round or a square disk, the lavish beauty and variety in snow crystals shows God's loving creativity in making snow not only very useful, but also wonderful to look at.
Right.
And to have snowball fights with. That's not in the article. But as evolutionists admit, one could almost convince oneself that snowflakes constitute a demonstration of a supernatural power.
Right.
And there's a reference here to the report on National Center for Science Education.
Yeah.
Evolutionists are saying this.
So the evolutionists are saying that if you give matter plus time and the inherent properties in matter, that could equal evolution. You could start with matter and the natural properties in matter. You give it enough time, it equals life.
Right.
That's what the biological evolutionist would say, right?
And they're pointing to snowflakes as an example where that's happened, right?
Right,
You
because
have
the
something
natural properties.
Yes.
Right.
It has natural properties, and look, it forms this very complex shape.
Right. But I've heard an example before, you know, someone doing crocheting, and you could crochet a doily that would look like a snowflake. Now you look at the snowflake, you say, well, the natural properties of water at certain temperatures make it turn into a snowflake. But there's nothing. When you look at a doily, especially it had something written on it, hi, you know, or Bible verse or something like that.
Welcome home.
Yeah, that there's nothing in the natural properties of that cloth, that structure that would indicate its shape. And the same for the code systems, right? There's nothing in ink that would determine that it would come out to mean that exact information, and that's the argument that he's made there.
Exactly. That's the article. The article's making that connection. That
Right.
it's an inaccurate analogy, and so much more information on creation.com and in other magazine articles.